There is a stunning claim that could change everything in the Nancy Guthrie case.
A single post on X stopped thousands of people cold. Not from a gossip page. Not from a Reddit conspiracy thread. Not from some armchair detective with a podcast and a theory. It came from Jennifer Coffindaffer, retired FBI special agent. A woman who spent years hunting criminals, reading crime scenes, and understanding exactly how federal investigations move from the inside. And what she wrote was short, but it hit like a freight train. Wondering why Sheriff Nanos keeps turning away proven, very capable civilian search experts like EquiSearch and the real Cajun Navy? Is law enforcement close to an arrest, and they know what happened to Nancy, so they don't want to waste the valuable resources of these groups. Read that one more time. A former federal agent, publicly, is asking why elite, experienced search teams are being turned away. The United Cajun Navy offered Sheriff Chris Nanos a full search operation. They never got a single response back. And Jennifer Coffindaffer wants to know, why? That question is the entire case. And tonight, we're going to answer it. And what you're about to hear is not speculation. This is evidence. This is investigator behavior. This is a pattern of a case that may be on the edge of breaking wide open. Nancy Guthrie is 84 years old. She is the mother of Savannah Guthrie, co-host of NBC's Today Show. She lives in the Catalina Foothills of Tucson, Arizona, a quiet, upscale neighborhood. The kind of place where people know their neighbors. The kind of place where something like this is never supposed to happen. On the night of January 31st, Nancy was last seen at her home. The next morning, she was gone. And within the first hours, law enforcement made something very clear. This was not a woman who wandered off. There were clues at the scene that confirmed she did not leave on her own. Drops of Nancy's blood were found on the front porch of her home. This was not a missing persons case. This was a kidnapping. And it got worse immediately because Nancy depends on vital daily medication just to stay alive. From the very first day she was gone, the clock wasn't ticking. It was screaming. Let's go back to that post. Because most people read it on the surface. But there's a second layer underneath, and that layer tells you everything. When someone goes missing, civilian search organizations are among the most powerful tools law enforcement has. Groups like Texas EquiSearch and the United Cajun Navy have decades of experience. They've found people in floodwaters, in forests, in deserts. When a person is missing, you want every single resource available. You want every pair of eyes, every boot on the ground. So why would you turn them away? You turn them away when you're no longer searching for a person. You turn them away when the investigation has shifted from finding someone to building a case against someone. That's exactly what Coffindaffer was pointing at. She even wrote, half glass full, hoping Ellie is getting closer. That's not wishful thinking from a nervous outsider. That's a trained investigator reading law enforcement's behavior like a map and recognizing the destination. And it lines up with what Sheriff Nanos himself told NBC News, that investigators are definitely closer to tracking down the suspect seen in surveillance footage. Definitely closer. Not possibly. Not hopefully. Definitely. That is not the language of a dead investigation. Now, let's get into what investigators are actually working with, because this is where the case gets genuinely fascinating. On February 10th, the FBI released doorbell camera footage showing a man on Nancy Guthrie's porch the night she disappeared. He was wearing a ski mask, long pants, a jacket, gloves, and a handgun holster on a body. The FBI officially named him a suspect. But here's what people missed. Even with a full ski mask, this man left physical clues you simply cannot hide. Investigators noted visible eyebrows above the mask, a dark mustache, partially visible, and, perhaps the most specific detail of all, a ring on the pinky finger of his right hand. That ring matters more than people realize. Rings are personal. They're often unique. They're exactly the kind of detail that someone who knows this man, a friend, a family member, a co-worker, might recognize the moment they see it. Investigators know this. That detail was released for a reason. The FBI identified that the suspect was carrying a 25-liter Ozark Trail hiker pack, a backpack sold exclusively at Walmart. Now, I know what you're thinking. A Walmart backpack? How does that crack a case? But think like an investigator for a second. Walmart has one of the most advanced retail surveillance systems in existence. Every transaction leaves a trail. Every purchase, in-store or online, has a record attached to it. Investigators explored whether the bag was bought online. Either way, there's a paper trail. There may be a face on a security camera. Somewhere. Every item has a history. And investigators are pulling every single thread. This is where things get complicated and genuinely interesting. DNA recovered from black gloves found roughly 2 miles from Nancy's home was traced back to a local restaurant employee with no connection to the case. A dead end, but a necessary one, because ruling people out is how you find the person you're actually looking for. Then there's the mixed DNA found inside Nancy's home itself. Sheriff Nanos confirmed that investigators are still working through it. A mixture that didn't belong to Nancy or anyone in close contact with her, suggesting multiple contributors. Mixed DNA is difficult to untangle, but it is not impossible, especially when you pair it with investigative genetic genealogy, the same technique that cracked cold cases thought to be unsolvable for decades. In an interview with NBC News, Sheriff Nanos said investigators believe they know why this was done. He wouldn't say it publicly, but Coffin Daffer filled in the blanks immediately. She told Newsweek. He starts off saying, yes, we have what we believe to be the motive, which is huge, because whenever you find motive, you find suspect. And what was that motive? Coffin Daffer said it plainly, kidnapping for ransom. That was the theme from day one. It's why the family made public pleas. It's why Savannah Guthrie sat in front of the camera, visibly shaking, and said the words no daughter should ever have to say. We will pay. And Nanos confirmed it himself. We believe we know why he did this, and we believe that it was targeted. This suspect chose Nancy Guthrie. He watched. He planned. He came prepared. This was not random. Now let's talk about money. Because in cases like this, money is a weapon. Savannah Guthrie announced that the family is offering up to $1 million for information leading to her mother's safe recovery. The FBI is offering an additional $100,000 for information leading to an arrest. And 88 Crime has put up another $102,500 on top of that. We are talking about more than $1.2 million sitting on a table, waiting for someone to claim it. Jennifer Coffin Daffer said publicly that in her view, the number one way this case gets solved is someone coming forward. A girlfriend who gets angry. A family member who finds their conscience. A friend who looks at that number and decides their loyalty has a limit. That's not opinion. That is investigative reality. Most major criminal cases don't break because of a forensic miracle in a lab. They break because a human being, under pressure, under the weight of what they know, makes a choice. And right now, that pressure is enormous. Here's something I want you to pay attention to, because if you followed enough of these cases, you know exactly what this means. The investigation has gone quiet. Press conferences are rare. Statements are carefully worded. The media isn't getting much. And civilian search teams are being politely but firmly told to stand down. This kind of silence has a name. Investigators call it a building phase. And it is one of the most recognizable signs that a case is moving toward resolution. Think back to November 2022. 4 University of Idaho students were murdered in their home in Moscow, Idaho, one of the most horrifying crimes in recent American history. And for weeks, silence. The police chief said almost nothing. The public demanded answers. Civilians wanted to help search. Experts demanded transparency. Law enforcement said almost nothing. Coffin Daffer actually compared the heat on Sheriff Nanos to the criticism Chief James Fry faced during that investigation. And here's what happened while everyone was watching that silence. Investigators were quietly assembling a case against Brian Kohlberger. Cell phone data, DNA, travel records, digital footprints, brick by brick, piece by piece. 6 weeks after the murders, Kohlberger was in handcuffs. The silence wasn't failure. The silence was the sound of a case being built. Now look at the Nancy Guthrie investigation. Search teams turned away. The sheriff speaking carefully. The FBI working behind closed doors. And Coffin Daffer herself wrote this. Just because we don't see what the FBI is investigating, I assure you they're drinking from a fire hose with more investigative leads than most cases ever have. A fire hose of leads from a former FBI agent who knows what that actually means. Let's bring it all together. We have an 84-year-old woman taken from her home in a targeted, planned kidnapping. We have a masked suspect with specific physical identifiers, eyebrows, a mustache, and a pinky ring. We have a backpack with a purchase trail. We have DNA evidence still being processed. We have a motive investigators believe they've already identified. We have a reward surpassing $1.2 million. And we have a former FBI special agent publicly suggesting that law enforcement may be far closer to an arrest than anyone on the outside realizes. Billboards are up across Arizona, Texas, New Mexico, and California. The FBI tip line is active, and the pressure on the suspect, on everyone around him, is not releasing. It is building, because that's how cases like this end. Not in a dramatic standoff, not in a chase scene. They end with a phone call from someone who finally decided that silence cost too much. The Pima County Sheriff's Department has said this remains an active investigation, one that will continue until Nancy Guthrie is located or every lead is exhausted. Every lead, not some, all of them. And here's the truth that every experienced investigator already knows. The truth Jennifer Coffin-Daffer is counting on. The truth the Guthrie family is holding on to right now, in whatever dark and terrifying corner of hope they're living in. The quietest moment in a criminal investigation is very often a moment right before everything breaks. This case is not over. This case is not cold. And whoever took Nancy Guthrie, the clock is not stopping. The leads are not stopping. And the people looking for her are not stopping. If you have any information about Nancy Guthrie's disappearance, contact the FBI tip line at 1-800-CALO-FBI. Visit tips.fbi.gov or call 88-CRIME. I'm your host. This has been the Case Code. Stay sharp, stay curious, and we'll see you in the next one.